back. So we could keep talking about HTTP requests for a long time. What I want to do instead is that I want to start working with the actual REST API that we are going to build, and then we can try using Postman to actually do some of these requests, and it'll be a lot easier, I think, for you to understand how the data is actually coming from over here and being passed into Postman or a Angular client later on. I think that'll make more sense when we start having some real code to work with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just jump back to this tutorial that I talked about earlier, and I want to show you guys this, because if you guys remember, we had the CRUD setup. We said we wanted to create, read, update, and delete everything inside our different entities. If you have a customer, if you have a pet, if you have whatever you have, then it makes sense that you can create new pets, right? You can update pets, delete pets, and get pets by ID or get all pets, right? So that's what we need whenever we're working with data. And we have the same setup right now inside our application, right? We can, if we look at the service, that's the easiest place to go for us. We want to just get an overview about what we can actually do. So try and have a look at the service right here. You can create, you can find, you can read, you can update, and you can delete customers in my case, right? And we want the same thing over the wire. So our REST API needs to provide the same functionality. And that's what a REST API does, but it has some different names. So in our case, look right here, we have the get. Now the get actually matches the read function. So let me just try and put that in here. When you have read inside our service, that actually matches what we call get inside a REST API or inside an HTTP request. So you can send an HTTP request with a get type. And let me just try and show you this. Just one more, jumping in and searching for cheese again. And you'll notice that this is actually what we call a get request. If I look at the tools right here, you'll see the network. I just do the cheese again. You'll see what it's sending is actually a get request, right? So notice right here, the header is a get request. So that's how you figure out what kind of request you're sending. But let's just shut this down for now and have a look. All of these are get requests, but in the end right here, there's something called a post request. So what is a post request? Well, let's try and jump back to this drawing right here. A post request, that's actually what we do when we add a new item. And what do you think that matches? You're absolutely right. When we want to add something new, we're going to use create. So I'm just going to write post right here, just to explain that the create is actually what we call post in an HTTP request. I know this is hard to kind of understand in the beginning, but that's just the naming you need to get used to. We're reading by using get requests. We are creating by using post requests. But what is put doing? Well, put is actually an update, right? So we have the update right here. That's actually what we call a put request. Yeah, it's crazy. You got to get used to it. That's just naming. Now the final thing we can do is actually we can delete something. And yeah, you're right. The delete is actually the delete still. So it's the same thing if we're using requests or if we're using the CRUD setup. Right here, it's delete. So now we kind of know that we need to figure out how to make our REST API do all of this. We need to be able to send a request that can get information, post information, put information, and delete information. And then we have the full setup. And here you're actually looking at the same drawing that I made earlier, pretty much. We can somehow ask for information by sending an HTTP request and get some response back as JSON with an HTTP response. So that's pretty much all you have to do. Now we need to figure out how we can actually do this. And next lesson, we're going to start out our own REST API and going to try and run it and try and use something called Postman to actually display the data that we can execute. See you next time. Have fun.